Kingdom family, kingdom family, kingdom family. What's up, everybody? Justin Michael William. And as always, with every week, I'm grateful for holding this collective space with you all. I am in Bali. Look where I'm at. I'm in Indonesia. I'm actually in Jakarta right now, waiting to go to Bali. And I am so grateful and so thankful to have this time with all of you, our kingdom family, here rising together. And if this is your first time ever coming to the kingdom, I want you to type in the words first time in the chat box. Type in the words first time so that we know it's your first time. You'll feel our entire community welcoming you with open arms, this loving community here. And hello, everybody, all of our regulars, all of our first timers. I love you. And so we're in for a very special session today. I feel like I say that every single week, but today's a special session. We have an incredible special guest beaming in from the other side of the world from me. And I'm very excited. So as we do, and we begin with every single session of the kingdom, we'll begin by just getting clear on what our values are here, what we believe here at the kingdom. And we believe here that all beliefs are welcome here. We believe here at the kingdom that all biologies are welcome here. We believe in the power of music to open our hearts and minds, and we believe that wisdom can come from many. Here at the kingdom, we know that we are all connected to one another, and so we believe in an expanded definition of self. And here, we don't just honor or tolerate each other's differences, but we know that we're stronger because of them, and ultimately we rise together. And so in every single session, we always have a poem or music or song and then a prayer. And then I will dig in and let you have a personal prayer. And then we'll go straight into our teaching, our practice, and today with our special guest. And so without further ado, I want to invite us into our moment of, wrong slide. That's from a couple weeks ago. I want to invite us into our moment of prayer. Hands over the heart. So go ahead and just place your hands over your heart. Here at the kingdom, you can do the traditional kind of prayer, mudra, or you can put your hands right over the center of your chest. Just make sure they're not over your throat. And we begin together as we drop into this energetic space. God, spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, we thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for bringing this community together from across the world, far and wide, for 44 weeks. Here we are, growing and spreading love and positivity. And in a moment in this world where there's so much division, thank you for allowing us to be a beacon of hope where we see that most people are good and that we're here to come together. Today, may each of us receive the exact dose, the exact message that we need in our own lives so that we know where to look in our own lives to find hope, to find positivity, to find motivation, especially when times get tough, and especially when we need that extra boost. Thank you for our special guest today. Thank you for allowing us to have these practices that bring us back to remembering who we really are. This is your moment now to welcome in your own personal prayer. I'll be silent for about 60 seconds, and you can welcome in your own prayer now. God, spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, we thank you. Thank you for protecting us. Thank you for bringing this community together. We are here to serve. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Amen, Shalom, Satnam, Awen, Om. Thank you. So here we are, family. Here we are. And I am so grateful to welcome today's special guest. This is a brother of mine who I've known for, I'm looking at him behind the screen right now, like 12 years, something like that. I think we met in 2008, maybe, something like that, a little while ago. And just very, very grateful to bring this brother here with us today. And I want to formally introduce you to an incredible teacher, a leader, an author, a speaker, helps us find our inner happiness. And his new book called Knowing Where to Look, 108 Daily Doses of Inspiration, is available for pre-order now and actually is coming out this week. And so I welcome to the Kingdom stage, Mr. Light Watkins. Light, what's up?
Brother, good to
Hey,
see
man.
you, man.
Welcome to the Kingdom. Everybody here in the chat box, tell Light what's up, put your hands up. What's up, man?
It's my first time here on the stage. I'm really inspired by everything you're doing. So thanks for inviting me, and congratulations on building this movement. I think it's very important.
Oh, man, thank you so much. So, we're here to talk about you today and this book and this and the work that you're putting out in the world. But before we even get into that, I would love for people to just hear a little bit about your journey. Here they see this beautiful man who's doing all this stuff in the world, and we see all your pictures and we see your Instagram, but like, what even brought you to this place, Light, of even being interested in this kind of personal growth practices?
Well, I've been very curious about spiritual development since the mid 90s. I was living in New York City. I was working in fashion, actually, and I started taking these yoga classes, and then through that I started dabbling in meditation. But my initial experiences were very rough, very rocky. I had never been a very flexible person, even in yoga, and so sitting
I love
for
that you put that
5 minutes
in yoga. I love the way
Yeah.
you put that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, just sitting for 5 minutes was excruciating for me. And but for some reason I kept coming back to the practice. And then when I relocated to LA, as New Yorkers do at some point, I discovered Vedic meditation. I met a teacher out there who taught me the Vedic meditation style, and that completely turned me out and got me really enthusiastic about the practice. And then I kind of had this, well, I didn't kind of have, I had a calling to become a teacher. I just didn't know how it was going to happen, because now we're talking 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
This is before YouTube, before apps, before, I was going to the Beverly Hills Library checking out books on metaphysics and channeling and astral traveling and meditation. And so cut to 2007, I went to India to learn from my teacher, who got trained by his Indian teacher in northern India. He taught us how to teach meditation in the ancient ways. And then I came back to West Hollywood, and I started teaching out of my 1-bedroom apartment in 2007. I was a full-time meditation teacher, back when people's eyes would gloss over when they asked you what you did. And I said I taught meditation, because nobody really had a point of reference for that at that time. And now here we are, almost 15 years later, and it's this whole thing. And I've written all these books and I've given over like 500 talks on wellness and mindfulness and meditation, and I've done retreats all over the world. And so it's just amazing. I never would have imagined that my life was going to go in this direction, and here we are. I'm on this stage with you talking about it, and you're an accomplished author and a big presence in this space, and it's just really nice, especially seeing two people who look like us, who are considered to be thought leaders in this meditation space. So I'm just feeling grateful and honored right now.
Well, it feels very full circle to me, because, I think when we first met, I remember coming to one of your meditation intro classes, like 2010, I don't know, 2009, like this was a long time ago, and remember seeing like, whoa, there's a Black dude who's teaching meditation and this and that. And this was when I was even just like first digging my feet into the practice in that way. I'd been doing yoga. And then I remember just coming full circle. And when I was doing my book proposal and writing the book, and they said, well, there's really only one other Black guy who has a meditation book. And before they even said who, I was like, I know who it is, and it was so amazing, to be here together now doing this, and being able to share with the community. And your work is so amazing. I don't know if this was your first ever, it was not your first book, but the first book
Second book.
I had,
Yeah.
Bliss More, which is just absolutely incredible, meditation book. Everybody, I recommend it highly. And then now the new book, which I'm like, I have the copy. It's just in the United States. Yes. Okay. So of course you have it. And I have to tell you, Light, because I got the book and I, just from looking at the picture, I thought I was going to pull something off of the front. I'm sure everybody tells you that. I was like thinking, look, hold it up again. Hold it up again. So look
the
at
peekaboo.
Doesn't the little peekaboo look like you could really grab it? Like, I thought that was the thing. So, tell us all what inspired you to write this particular book that's in this format, because I think the format's really incredible.
Well, what's interesting is when I started writing my last book, the one you just mentioned, Bliss More, How to Succeed in Meditation Without Really Trying, that was my second book. And I was nervous about writing it myself. And I was thinking, should I get a ghostwriter? Because I wanted it to be really good, even though I'd already written one book by myself. This was a bigger book. It was for Random House, and I really wanted to do it right. And my agent convinced me to do it myself. And I just was so insecure about my writing that I wanted to practice writing. And so I decided to start this daily inspirational email back in June of 2016. So we're coming up on 5 years. And just purely as a way of going to sort of writing gym every day. And it was a hard deadline and it was public. So I had to really put a lot of effort into it. And so I started writing these things, and it turned out people were really resonating with the stories that I was telling and the anecdotes and the observations. And so over the past 5 years, I've written thousands of them. And I've taken the ones that got the most engagement and I put them together in this book. So the subtitle is 108 Daily Doses of Inspiration, and they're taken mostly from the emails that I've been sending out. So, and that's what I'm talking about in the book, is following inspiration. Because when I first had that idea, it wasn't to write a book.
Yeah.
It was just to practice my writing in order to work on the previous book. I had no idea that this was going to become a book itself. But, I put everything into it, and I literally made it a meditation in itself, where I would spend an hour or two or sometimes 3 hours a day thinking about some inspirational story that I had heard, and then trying to write it out in a way that felt succinct and punchy.
Well, I think,
and so
you're pulling a thread on this that I really wanted to pull, that even before we get into some of the content of the book, is this practice that you did. And I love, Shauna Shapiro has this great quote, who's another incredible meditation teacher who I've recommended to everybody. Her book is called Good Morning, I Love You. And she says, what you practice grows stronger. And I love that here you were, and you called it the writing gym. And so for all the people out there who are like, I want to write, I want to sing, I want to play guitar, I want to do this, I want to do that. And here you go with the daily practice. What did you find transformed within you as you committed to this daily practice?
Such a good question. Okay, so once I had the idea to do this, I still was like, I can't commit to a daily email that I have to write, because I was traveling all around the world, teaching people meditation, leading retreats, oftentimes spending days on the road, in airports or in remote places without Wi-Fi connection. So it's like, that's a serious situation of painting yourself into a corner to commit to sending out an email by 6 a.m. Pacific time every single day indefinitely. So naturally, I postponed, I procrastinated.
Yeah.
And then, because my main fear was that I was going to miss dates, and I didn't want to do that. And then number two, I feel like I was going to run out of content after a few weeks. I mean, if you think about how many stories do you know that you could recite in a succinct way that other people would care about. I mean, it probably comes down to maybe, if you're a really good storyteller, maybe a couple dozen stories.
Right.
So I knew for a fact that I was going to run out of stories within a few weeks. But I eventually decided, okay, it's time to take the leap of faith, because that's why it's called a leap of faith. You don't know how it's going to turn out. So I started a week after my birthday that year. And
Birthday?
and you know,
When is your birthday?
May 30th. May
May
30th.
30th. Okay, so we're coming up
on June 6th.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
And after 3 weeks, you know what happened? I ran out of stories. My worst fears came to fruition. But something else really interesting happened that I was not expecting. By showing up consistently, I found that, and having a deadline, I found that an idea would come through me, right? And Elizabeth Gilbert and Stephen Pressfield, they talk about this a lot in their writing, this idea of the muse. And the muse is like feeding you ideas and creativity. And that was exactly my experience. And it was so liberating, because it meant that I didn't have to figure out what I was going to write. I just had to show up to be the transcriber of what was coming through me, and then work out the grammar and make sure that it sounded as close to the original inspiration as when I sent it out, as it did in my head when I was sitting there, maybe coming out of a meditation, or just sitting quietly, or just kind of, scouring through the through the internet. So that was really relieving. And I would say that most of the doses in this book, the ones that were the most impactful, were not stories that I previously planned or thought about before I sat down to write. They were stories that came through me.
Wow.
And Maya Angelou has this saying. She said, "You never have to worry about running out of creativity, because creativity generates creativity. So all you have to do is just commit to the practice, and everything you need as a result of that will come through the practice." And so that's what a lot of these doses ended up being about. It's just different 108 ways of saying, just show up, just take the leap of faith, and trust the process.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned Stephen Pressfield and also Elizabeth Gilbert, two massive people who we've talked about here on the Kingdom a lot, specifically about creativity and resistance and all of these things. And, I love this concept that you're getting into for those of us who are thinking about, you said there was the fear, right? That came procrastination, and what if this didn't happen? And what if that didn't happen? And finally going to faith and saying, well, why not? Why not just try it and see what comes? And then feeling that you tapped into and connected into the source of creativity, which is not you, right? It's this other place that you're allowing yourself to be used. And I think so many of us hear that, but it's a different thing to get it. I remember when I sat down to start writing Stay Woke, and I'm there on page 1, right? I had, since college, hadn't written a paper longer than 10 pages. You know what I mean? And so I sit there and I'm like, how the hell am I going to write this book? You know what I mean? Here we are on page 1. And I remember by the end of it, I was like, how am I going to fit everything into this book? You're cutting stuff down and tearing things away, and it's too long. And it's just, it all continues to come through by sitting in and being in creativity as a practice, which is one of the big things I'm getting from what you just shared with us. I want to go into the stories a little bit here. So when I knew I was going to be having you on the show, I opened up some of my favorite parts of the book and was just kind of doing what you recommend in the book, which, by the way, these are my favorite kind of books, where you can do what I learned, the fancy word is called bibliomancy. The not so fancy word is open the book and pick a random page and just read one page, right? And see what comes to you, kind of like a divination practice. And there's one that I opened to that I took a picture of that I really love, and it's called The Thing About Advice. Thing About Advice. And I don't know, I want to read it to people, or maybe you can read it if you open to the page.
Yeah, I'll read it.
And then we can talk about it, because I think this is really a really good one for people.
Well, the other great thing is I hate being read to, but these are all very short
Yeah.
little doses of inspiration. So it's actually not bad. I just have to find which
It's
page it's
page
on. The thing about
32.
oh, okay, 32. There you go,
Yeah.
32. Okay, so
Is that right?
yeah, 32. Okay, the thing about advice. If you have a deep inner calling to try something that has never been done before, something risky, and you ask someone who's never taken a creative or professional risk before what they think about your idea, there's a good chance that they're either going to tell you not to risk it, or they're going to warn you about all the reasons why it will likely result in failure. But if you ask someone who's taken a healthy amount of professional or creative risks, there's a much higher probability that they will encourage you to go for it. Because life is short, and why live with the regret of not doing what you feel deeply called to do? The real question is, do you want to live a life of being risk averse, or one where you are more inclined to listen to and follow your inner guidance, which by nature will lead you off the beaten path? Because the answer to that question will determine whose advice you seek out in the first place.
Just take that in, y'all. It's so practical and so good and so short, and it says so much, right?
Mhm.
Just tell me more about like how that story, why that one made it in the book, why that one's important to us.
Man, when I just read it just now, it's like I didn't even write it. It was almost like someone else who's much wiser than me actually wrote that. Because you're right, it
most
is
of my stuff too, literally the same way.
it's so succinct, and it's something that's applicable to me all the time, because I think we've all had that experience where you have this idea that seems like something that's implausible, and you run it by your friends, and you already know what they're going to say. You already know they're going to say you're going too far, or you've lost your mind, or what are you thinking? Are you crazy? And you already know who your friends are who are a little bit more out there. Like, I'm one of those people. In my friend group, I'm the guy that's going to basically support you in whatever you want to do. I'm going to find a way for you to do it, for you to take the leap of faith. I am never going to say don't do that. Okay. But I have in my little personal brain trust, I do have people who are a little more conservative, who are a lot more risk averse than me. And I do like hearing their perspective on some of the things that I'm thinking about doing. And usually these are things that haven't fully solidified within me yet. Once something solidifies, I don't ask anybody's advice. I may ask them how I could do it most efficiently, but I'm not going to ask whether they think I should do it or not. And so there are layers to it, right? You have to get to that first layer where you understand that anything that you're feeling on a deep inner consciousness level that feels unambiguous, you should do that, right? And so you don't need to ask people's permission of whether you should do it. But if you haven't gotten to that level yet, then yeah, you're probably asking a lot of people's permission. And so they're going to tell you basically to do what they would do, which again, if they're risk averse, they're going to tell you probably not to risk it. And if they are a leap of faith person, then they're probably going to tell you to do it. And so if we're being honest with ourselves, which I think is a practice in and of itself, being brutally honest with ourselves, then we already have our answer of what we want to do based on who we ask about what they think.
This is
so
a lot of people don't pay attention to that. Like, we think of who we're choosing to go ask in the first place already has like an ulterior motive of what we are honest with ourselves about, what we really think we want. And in our community here, we call like those people who are kind of playing devil's advocate all the time, or I don't know if you should do that, a skeptical friend. This is one of them, skeptical friends, like you're calling, they're risk averse, and who are not sure. And for me, Shelley Tagelski, who's been a featured guest on here a lot, she has this amazing quote, and she says, there are two types of people in the world. There's the what ifs and the why nots. And she was like, don't be a what if. Don't be a what paralyzed in their analysis. Just be a why not. Why not me? Why not now? Why not us? And just see what happens. And I love that, right? Like being a why not. And this passage really reminded me of that. And I know you live by that, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, you try to. I'm still, I'm still human, and I still have moments and days where I slip into what if. But if you look at the whole body of work, it's definitely more why not than what if. And I think it's a progression. I think we all start in what if, because that's our social conditioning.
Yeah.
Most of us did not have parents who encouraged us to take big leaps of faith without knowing how it was going to turn out. And it's not because they were trying to hold us back. They just were concerned. They didn't want us to get our feelings hurt. They didn't want us to set unrealistic expectations, knowing how cruel the world can truly be. And so a lot of our early adult years really is about deconstructing that and reconditioning ourselves to be able to access our full potential. And that's really the importance of consistent inner work.
Yeah.
It can't be something that you treat like a hobby or that you do sporadically. If you really want to see through the veil of that conditioning, if you really want to be honest with yourself, you have to treat it like it's Apple stock in 1980, and you have to be enthusiastic about doing it and investing in it and learning all about the market and how these different aspects of it work, so that you can optimize your investments for long-term dividends.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that very practical metaphor. There is what I love about this book, Light, is first of all, just how easy and practical it is to use, especially for people who are busy and don't have time to read a whole bunch. Really, you can just open to a page and read a short passage. And some of them are a few pages long. And there was one in particular that I would love for you to talk about. And this one's longer than would make sense for us to actually read. But it's the one on page 177 about the value of nothing. And amazing tell and talk about. And you start with this Oscar Wilde quote that says, "A cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing." And then there's an amazing share with us.
Yeah, it's a story about my decision to take the leap of faith in becoming trained as a meditation teacher, which was, at the time, I was teaching yoga, and I was also embroiled in this Ponzi scheme, and the housing market was collapsing, and I was caught up in all of that. I had lost my shirt and my pants and my underwear and all of that. So I was clawing my way out of bankruptcy, and there was this meditation teacher training, which I said earlier I identified as my calling to become a teacher in this particular path. And so it was presented to come to India, but I needed to pay my way there. And it was a 3-month-long training, and the whole thing was going to cost like $14,000. And I didn't have $14,000. I didn't even have $1,000, right?
It says here in the book you were making at that time $800 a week.
A week, yeah, and right, and it was going out as quickly as it was coming in.
Yeah,
and so I got this random, or maybe it wasn't random, but I got this one of those sort of junk mail offers that people would get back in those days, saying that I could borrow, I think it was like $14,000 from some credit card, and it was 0% interest for, I think, 12 months or 18 months or something. It was one of those offers I normally would not have even considered, right? Because once the interest kicks in, it's like something crazy. It's like 30% interest. And if you don't have a way of paying the money back, then you're just screwed. So I had clawed my way out of debt up until the real estate thing happened. And when all that crashed, then I found myself back in debt again. And so, yeah, I saw that actually as a sign from the universe, that this was going to be the means that I would use to pay for my training. It was exactly the amount that I needed. It came exactly at the time that I needed to pay it, which was, I think, 2 days after I got that little flyer in the mail. And so the whole thing worked out. Next thing you know, I'm in India and I'm learning how to teach meditation. And I came back after 3 months and I started teaching meditation, and I ended up paying all of that back within a few months, and it was all fine, right? And the point of the story was, if I had listened to the sort of financial guru advice, which is very good advice, very practical advice, right? Never put yourself further in debt, stay away from credit cards, everything should be cash, the whole thing. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey and all the stuff that he talks about. But if I had listened to that, if I had let that override what I was feeling in my heart, I would not have had the experience of going to India and learning how to train people in meditation. I wouldn't have enjoyed the satisfaction, the fulfillment of helping people become self-sufficient meditators, thousands of people. I would not have written that book, Bliss More, when I wrote it, and written it from the front lines of knowing what it's like to struggle, and then to help people stop struggling in meditation. I wouldn't have given a TED talk. I probably wouldn't be here on this call with you, and so we obviously will never know what would have happened had we not taken the leap. But I wrapped that story up saying that I probably would have been telling the story of how I saved $14,000 all those years ago, how I wasn't tricked into doing, into falling deeper into debt. So that we're going to find a story to justify whatever we do, but that does not equate to fulfillment, right? I don't know anybody who's been fulfilled deep in their spirit from saving money or from playing it safe, right? That fulfillment comes from listening to what you're feeling inside in your heart, taking that leap, believing in yourself, and when that net appears, it's like the most beautiful experience that you can ever have. It's more serene and supreme than any drug, any alcohol, anything that you can experience. And it can become a practice in and of itself, which means it becomes easier to do it the next time and the next time and the next time. So that's what that story was all about.
This is so great. And, I think about the lesson that you're giving here of really one of the biggest benefits of practice to me is, and there's all the scientific benefits in this and that, is being able to access that place within you where you know the answer, even when it is getting told to you otherwise. It's interesting that both of these stories kind of connect in the same place, right? Of what is really your real desire? What is it that you really want? Like our guest Vanessa asked us a few weeks ago, what do you really want? And like hearing the financial guru's advice. But one of my biggest beliefs is that the real point of any of these practices is to really recognize the gurus within you and to know how to access that. And this seems like a real big practice of that. And thank God you went and did that, because here we are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man. So, I would love, as we lean into the end of our session here, to first of all ask if there's anything in particular that I didn't ask that you want to make sure that you talk to our people about, but then also to guide us through just a short practice that would help us anchor into ourselves and give us kind of an actionable takeaway that we can use in our lives.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm really enjoying the quality of your questions. I think it's really more about quality than quantity. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you for actually going through the book. You go on a lot of people's interviews and you could tell they haven't even actually opened the book. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'd be happy to lead a little practice.
Cool.
If you guys are open to that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cool. So I'm going to keep my eyes open so I can make sure that everything technically is
I'll be the
seamless.
Practitioner, so I'll have my
Okay, so then if you're in a safe place to close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes. Otherwise, if you want to just have a soft gaze, maybe staring down, you can do that as well. And if you're in a place to sit, then I invite you to sit comfortably, which means that it's perfectly okay to have back support, and you don't need to have your legs crossed or anything like that. Okay. So just to relax the nervous system, we're going to start with taking 3 nice, big, deep inhales and then exhales through the nose or the mouth, whichever one is the clearest. So take your deep breath in. Pause at the top for just a moment, and then exhale all the air out. Amazing. Let's do that again. Deepest breath in. Hold it at the top, and then release. Nice. Pause for just a beat at the bottom, and then one more time. Deep breath in. And let it go. And with that exhale, I want you to let go of any unnecessary tension that you might be holding anywhere in your body. So maybe just doing a quick little body scan, starting with your feet and working your way up through your calf muscles and your thighs, and relax all of that. And then working your way up through your stomach, your torso, and relax that. And down your arms and into your hands and fingers. Make sure those are all relaxed. And then shoulders, that's a big one. I want you to relax your shoulders. I want you to relax your neck. And then getting into the head and the face. So any tension you might be holding onto in your brows, in your jaw, in your tongue, your eyes, I want you to relax that. And if you have to take a few more deeper breaths to facilitate that relaxation process, feel free to do that. Otherwise, you're invited to just breathe completely naturally. And so, in most cases, at this point, you're left with just your thoughts. Your body should not be very much of a distraction if you're sitting in a very relaxed and comfortable way. But your thoughts may seem pretty loud, and that's actually quite natural and normal. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're not going to try to stop the thoughts. We're not going to witness the thoughts. We're not going to let go of anything. All we're going to do here is we're going to gradually begin to shift our attitude away from an antagonistic attitude around our busy mind and towards a protagonistic attitude. In other words, instead of seeing the mind as the enemy, we are going to see the mind as the hero, a beautiful hero that has been serving us for our entire lives, mostly without any sort of appreciation. And it's a very thankless job to be a mind and to have these thoughts. And so we want to just dedicate a few moments here in this practice to appreciating the mind, to appreciating its willingness to help us navigate life, to figure things out, to present us with multiple options, to help us make sure that we're safe, to help us understand our role in relationship to our experience, and all of the other things that the mind does on a moment-to-moment basis. It does this something like 60,000 plus times a day, sending us impulses of energy and information. And while our tendency in meditation practices is to resist the mind, we are going to be going the other way with it for this particular practice. And we're going to embrace the mind. We're going to rejoice the mind. We're going to celebrate the mind. And what we might find through that shift in our attitude around the mind being worthy of celebration is the mind enjoys being appreciated so much that it will just begin to gradually, incrementally and naturally become more and more settled. So we end up getting exactly what we wanted when we resist the temptation to reject our beautiful mind. And so, as we continue to breathe naturally, as we continue to sit comfortably, and as we continue to experience the phenomenon that is the thinking mind, and as we celebrate that phenomenon, just feel yourself becoming more and more immersed in this present moment where nothing has to be wrong, right? We don't have to judge anything as inappropriate when it comes to our mind. We can just be with it in the same way that if you were a flower or a butterfly or the branch of a tree in the middle of a forest, you're just being with all of it. And it's all symbiotic and it's all connected and it all feeds into one another and it's all beautiful. And one is not necessarily better or worse than anything else. It's just all a part of the process, the seasonal process of the play and display of nature's intelligence. So we're just going to sit here for about 10 seconds in complete silence, external silence, and just enjoy this presence and just enjoy this connectedness to our mind and our body and the moment and all the things that are happening around us. And then I want everybody to take another deep breath in, pause at the top, and then let it out. And in your own sweet time, gradually begin to open your eyes and bring yourself out.
Mm. I needed that.
Mm. Yes, yes. And really, man, that's all that we need on a daily basis is just, 5 minutes of just sitting down, take a few deep clearing breaths and just be with whatever you're experiencing, right? Forget about trying to force anything to happen and just practice the second part of what we are. We have the human part down, but we tend to be lacking a little bit in the being aspect. We can do the human thing, look at the news, it's all humanity, humanness, doing, right? This human is fighting that human. This group of humans doesn't like that group of humans. But what about the being aspect? We can't leave out the being part, and that requires more diligent practice because we've been neglecting it. If we're being honest, we've been neglecting that aspect of ourselves for a very long time. But once we cultivate that beingness, it informs our ability to optimize our humanity.
Yeah.
So that we become the person who's the voice of connection in the room, the unity voice. And the world just so desperately needs more people like that who are willing to reach out and connect with other people who may be deemed by society to be scary or uninformed or whatever judgment we've placed upon them. So it's our obligation as citizens of the world and the universe to make this practice a commitment, a daily commitment.
I love this, optimizing in that way. It's just so powerful. Light, I want to thank you for coming and joining us on The Kingdom. I want to congratulate you this week, leading into your birthday week, on the new book. Everybody, you can go order Light's new book. Hold it up again. Where to look? This beautiful book. Pre-order it, order it, whenever you're watching this. An incredible book that will help guide you back home to yourself. Light, thank you so much for being with us. You can learn more about Light at lightwatkins.com. easy to find. Just search his name. Easiest person to Google ever. and
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. And all of you, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at the Kingdom. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you always. I know we're having a little bit shorter of a session than we normally have right now, but it is the middle of the night here in Indonesia and I need to go to bed. So I love you all so much. I'm so grateful to be with you. And this is Justin Michael Williams signing out, and I'll meet you right here in this special place the next time we're together. Bye for now, everyone.